All right, we're back in action, and we've got eight bills to work session. And Mr. Thorley, when you are ready, you can read off that list of the bills for us. Go slow because we always ask you to repeat yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll need to make sure that I actually say the right numbers. Okay, Assembly Bill 224. Assembly Bill 241, Assembly Bill 256, Assembly Bill 321, Assembly Bill 355, Assembly Bill 393, Assembly Bill 443, and Assembly Bill 489.
All right, Mr. Thorley, did everybody get that?
What was the first one?
224,
What was the second one?
241.
Correct, 8 total bills, all Assembly bills.
All right, we are ready when you are. If you want to walk us through the first bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll begin with Assembly Bill 244. Assembly Bill 244 in its second reprint was presented by Assemblywoman Duran earlier today. The bill requires school districts and charter schools to provide menstrual products at no cost in student bathrooms. Samantha Glover, a local high school student, also provided testimony in support of the bill. Lindsay Anderson with the Washoe County School District spoke about the school district's revised fiscal note, which is available on Nellis. The Washoe County School District's fiscal note indicated a cost of $27,240 in FY22 and $20,040 in FY23. Brad Keating with the Clark County School District also spoke about the Clark County School District's fiscal note. The fiscal impact, again, this is an unsolicited fiscal note that's on Nellis. The Clark County School District says the fiscal impact would be $157,000 in FY22 and $132,000 in FY23. Testifying in support there were several individuals that testified in support. There's no testimony in opposition or neutral. Section 3.3 of the bill, no, I'm sorry, 3.7, section 3.7 on page 5 of the bill creates an interim study concerning access to menstrual products in middle school, junior high schools, and high schools in the state. There is no funding in the bill related to that study. If the committee wishes, they could amend that portion out of the bill. Happy to answer any questions that the committee might have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Ratty.
I'd like to make a recommendation that the committee consider amending the study and interim committee portion out of the bill. I believe it's section 3.7.
Thank you. I would agree with that. We don't have any studies funded, and we have been trying to hold that line all session, and then this one shows up. So I think that it makes the most sense. Otherwise, funding the actual work in the program, I think, is incredibly important. So yeah, any other discussion on Assembly Bill 224? All right, seeing none, I take a motion.
I will do an amend do pass with the amendment to be to remove the interim study committee.
All right, I've got a, excuse me, a motion from Senator Ratty, a second from Senator Dondero Loop. Do I have any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion passes unanimously, and we'll sign that floor statement to Senator Dondero Loop. And next, AB 241.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You know what? Can I reassign that floor statement to Senator Severs Gansert? The young lady who was behind this is actually one of her constituents, and so I think that would be cool.
Good idea. I think they were pointing to Senator Gokachia, but I'll take that. Thanks.
So yeah, floor statement on Assembly Bill 224 to Senator Severs Gansert, please, and we can go to 241. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Assembly Bill 241 was heard today. It was presented by Assemblywoman Gonzalez, joined by Holly Wellborn of the ACLU. What was presented was the mock-up proposed amendment number 3471 to Assembly Bill 241. There was testimony in support provided by the Washoe County Public Defender's Office, Clark County Public Defender's Office, as well as other individuals who called in. There was no opposition. There was one caller in neutral who was the parole board, who discussed that this amendment restored the retroactivity that had previously been amended out of the bill from the introduced version. The fiscal note that had been submitted originally by the parole board, which the parole board testified was now in effect again, totaled $13,956 in fiscal year 2022. There was no cost identified for the second year of the biennium or in future biennium. And the board indicated that in their fiscal note that represented an increase to the hearing representative costs that they anticipated having to fund. If the committee wishes to pass this bill, it would be passing the proposed amendment number 3471 to Assembly Bill number 241. And so the motion for the committee would be to amend and do pass.
Thank you, Mr. Hartz. Do we have any questions on Assembly Bill 241 from the committee? All right, I have a motion. Not seeing any questions. I have a motion from Senator Dennis to amend and do pass. I have a second from Senator Ratty. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing no discussion on the motion, all in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. And the motion passes unanimously, and we will assign that floor statement to Senator Dennis, please. And that will take us to Assembly Bill 256.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Assembly Bill 256 was heard by the committee on May 28th. The bill was presented by Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. The bill requires, in its first reprint, requires a doula who desires to receive reimbursement through the Medicaid program for the provision of doula services to a Medicaid recipient to enroll with the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy. The bill also requires an enrolled doula to report suspected abuse and neglect in certain cases. Lastly, the department must apply for a waiver of the federal Medicaid requirements and or request to amend the state plan to receive federal funding to provide coverage of doula services. Dwayne Young with the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy testified that the division anticipates that this bill would actually have a savings on the medical side of the budget. On the administration side, Mr. Young did indicate that there would be a cost. However, in the back language of the Appropriations Act, there is a transfer of funding authorized from the medical budget to the Medicaid administration budget to cover the cost of any technology upgrades needed related to the state plan amendment. There was no testimony in support, there was no testimony in opposition, there was no testimony in neutral. There were no amendments. Mr. Chair, if the committee wishes to move forward, the motion would be to do pass.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thorley. Any questions on Assembly Bill 256? Bill draft. I have a motion from Senator Dennis to do pass. I have a second from Senator Ratty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. All opposed, nay. And the motion passes unanimously. And we will assign that floor statement to Senator Ratty. All right. That takes us to Assembly Bill 321.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Assembly Bill 321 was heard yesterday, I am told. Speaker Frierson, presented the bill. The bill focuses on voting by mail. From a fiscal impact standpoint, Section 89.5 contains a general fund appropriation to the Secretary of State's office in the amount of $6,286,844 in fiscal year 22 and $5,998,138 in fiscal year 23 to fund the cost, the Secretary of State's cost of ballot stock, postage, and postcard notifications to carry out the provisions of this act. There was numerous individuals who testified in support. Several individuals testified in opposition, and there was no testimony offered in neutral. Mr. Chair, if the committee wishes to approve this bill, it's the second reprint, and it would be due pass.
Thank you, Mr. Hartz.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have any questions from the committee on Assembly Bill 321? No questions, so I'll take a motion to do pass. No, it's just a do pass, yeah. So I have a motion from Senator Ratty, second from Senator Dennis. All in favor, oh, excuse me, any conversation or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Nays are Kekeffer, Hammond, Severs-Gansert, and Senator Gokachia. And so the motion passes with a majority, and we will assign that floor statement. I'll take that one. And that moves us to 355, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Assembly Bill 355 was heard yesterday by the committee. The bill contains various appropriations to nonprofit organizations. Jan Jones Blackhurst did present the bill yesterday. There was also testimony provided by Dr. Bernhard from the International Gaming Institute. Representatives from the Springs Preserve and Lou Ruvo Center for Brain Health also provided testimony in support. There was no testimony in opposition or neutral. There is a proposed amendment mock-up on Nellis as an exhibit. It's mock-up 3480 to Assembly Bill 355, prepared for Senator Ratty, dated today, May 30th.
All right, committee,
Wait,
do you,
it-
or you?
I just heard that is it not online? Correct, on the meeting page for Senate Finance today, it should be under exhibits. Again, it's proposed amendment 3480 to Assembly Bill 355. The amendment does two things. First, the amendment adds Section 8 to the bill. It appropriates $1 million from the state general fund to Immunize Nevada for activities related to public health. Second, the bill makes changes to the appropriation date to the various other general fund appropriations that were included in the bill to make it so that all the appropriations are FY 2021 general fund appropriations. The total dollar amount did not change. With the amendment. So you'll see in the amendment that any section that had general fund appropriations listed as coming out of 22 or 23, the amendment combines both those appropriations into an FY 2021 appropriation. So the total dollar amount does not change. It's just the money would be coming in a lump sum as opposed to in each fiscal year. The total dollar amount of the appropriations in the bill is $8.2 million. Happy to answer any questions that the committee might have.
Senator Severs-Gansert?
Thanks, Chair Brooks. So the funding for Immunize Nevada, is that something that could be available through the ARP funds? I mean, like, do you switch it out later, or no?
So thank you for the question, Chair, if it would be okay, since I recommend this amendment for me to answer. So in conversations with Immunize Nevada, they are a small but mighty statewide organization that works on immunizations for across the state and has been a significant partner to the state. When the time came for the immunization push during the COVID-19 pandemic, they stepped up in a very big way and became a big part of the team of folks who were helping to address the pandemic. They are actually going to be, my understanding from speaking to the executive directors, they are going to be receiving quite a bit more federal funding specifically to COVID immunizations and to making sure that we're doing a good job of disparate impact. But those funding streams are narrowly tailored to COVID immunizations and disparate impact for communities of color. And we've got school season coming up, and the base work that Immunize Nevada has always done, which is making sure that children have immunizations before we go back to school, is somewhat in jeopardy because they've got all of this other work coming through. So the intent of this really is to give them some flexible funding that doesn't come with as many strings so that they can continue to do their base work as well as be strategic about stepping up to use the federal funding that will be coming in. So the intention really is here for them to have some flexible general fund dollars.
Thank you. Any other questions on 355 and the amendment? All right. Seeing none, I would take a motion to amend to pass, referencing this amendment. Senator Ratty, I have a motion from Senator Ratty, amend to pass with the referenced amendment. A second from Senator Dennis. Any discussion on the motion? Senator Kiekhaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll vote yes out of committee, but I'm going to reserve my right to change the vote on the floor when
we land on where we are financially.
Thank you, Senator Kieckhofer, and Senator Hammond.
Thank you. Same here. He just beat me to the punch, but yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing. Thank you.
Senator Gansert, same.
You, same, Chair Brooks.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. I have the same reservations, but, you know, this is part of the process. Just, we can't count it until we got a bill. Right on, and so I appreciate it. With no further discussion, all in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion passes unanimously, and we will assign this to Senator Ratty. And that brings us to our next item, which is Assembly Bill 393.
Thank you, Chair Brooks. Assembly Bill 393 was heard today. Staff would note that on the meeting exhibit page, there is a proposed mock-up that is entitled, under meeting exhibits for this bill, entitled AB 373 mock-up Senator Scheibel, AB 393 in parentheses, is mock-up number 3472. And the mock-up proposes to amend Section 8 of AB 393 in subsection 5 to require that if Department of Parole and Probation staff make a finding that a term or condition of probation ordered pursuant to subsection 1 of NRS 176A.400 or the level of supervision set pursuant to this section does not align with the results of a risk and needs assessment administered pursuant to subsection 1 or 2, the supervising officer shall notify the court of such a finding, and the court may modify the terms and conditions pursuant to NRS 176A.450. That is the extent of the mock-up contained in 347 in mock-up number 3472. This bill also contains a general fund appropriation, section 32.5, which is found on page 45 of the third reprint. Includes a general fund appropriation to the Department of Sentencing Policy for personnel costs related to data management. In fiscal year 22, the amount of $75,345 is appropriated. In fiscal year 23, the amount of $96,987 is appropriated. There was no testimony in support when this bill was heard, nor was there testimony in opposition or neutral. If the committee wishes to pass this bill with mock-up number 3472 to the third reprint, the motion would be to amend and do pass.
Thank you, Mr. Hartz. Do we have any questions from the committee on Assembly Bill 393? Seeing none, I would take a motion to amend and do pass with the referenced mock-up amendment. I have a motion from Senator Dennis. I have a second from Senator Ratty. Any discussion on that motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously, and we'll assign that to Senator Kieckhofer. All right, thank you, sir. And that takes us to Assembly Bill 443.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Assembly Bill 443 was heard earlier today. The bill was presented by Assemblyman Yeager. The bill revises the interim committee structure of the Nevada Legislature. Assemblyman Yeager walked the committee through the various sections of the bill, which would generally align interim committees with the regular joint standing committees. The bill does not make any changes, however, to the Interim Finance Committee, the Economic Forum, or the Legislative Commission. The measure also makes changes to the number of BDRs allowed to be requested by the various interim committees. Assemblyman Yeager also noted that the Legislative Committee on Senior Citizens, Veterans, and Adults with Special Needs would, under the bill, would remain as is and would not be absorbed under any of the new interim committees. There is a general fund appropriation in section 51.7 of the bill, which would appropriate $35,000 for interim studies during the upcoming interim. There was no testimony in support, opposition, or neutral. There were no amendments proposed, Mr. Chair, so if the committee wishes to move forward, the motion would be to do pass.
All right, do we have any discussion on Assembly Bill 443? All right, take a motion to pass. Have one from Senator Dennis, a second from Senator Ratty. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, nay. And that motion passes unanimously, and I will assign that floor statement to Senator Hammond. All right, thank you, sir. And that takes us to Assembly Bill 489.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Assembly Bill 489 was heard today. It was presented by LCB Director Brenda Erdos. This bill makes an appropriation to the Legislative Fund for capital improvement projects, one-time building maintenance, information technology purposes, and dues for national and regional organizations. In Section 1 of this bill, it appropriates general funds to the legislative funds in the amount of $11,403,000 for capital improvement projects. In Section 2, it appropriates general funds to the legislative funds in the amount of $4,583,500 for the computer hardware, voting system modernization, facility security upgrade, broadcast infrastructure upgrade, one-time building maintenance, and the payment of dues to national and regional organizations. If the committee and this bill becomes effective upon passage and approval, if the committee wishes to approve this bill, the motion would be do pass.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee on Assembly Bill 489? I see that we have Ms. Erdos here, if we have any questions. Any questions from the committee? All right. I will just say that this is far more than is generally requested and for the legislative CIPs and maintenance. But we also we've seen that we've kind of been operating on a very lean budget here at LCB for a very long time, and there's some repairs that need to be made, as well as the changing kind of climate that has led us to have to make kind of some facilities improvements and changes from a security standpoint as well that lead to some of these increased costs, as well as accommodating the public in with more and more access electronically to be able to participate in these meetings during this pandemic. And I think it's really shown us that we can definitely increase the way the public can participate when they can't get all the way to Carson City, which is really a hardship for a lot of folks. So it's a modernization effort as much as it is anything. And so that's why I'll be supportive of this this request. So that being said, any discussion on Assembly Bill 489? All right, I have a motion to do pass by Senator Dennis. Any discussion on the, and a second by Senator Ratty. And do we have any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion passes unanimously, and I will assign that statement to Senator Gokachia. Is that okay? All right, thank you. And with that, I believe that is our last work session item. But before I adjourn, I just want to make sure that there is no business that needs to be taken care of before we adjourn for the evening. I think we've scoured the sheets, and that is everything that we have to do for tonight. But we'll take, before I adjourn, I just want to take a quick break and confer with the majority leader. All right. I think that is it then. So we will move to our last item of business, and that is public comment. And so I want to see if we have anybody available tonight here in the room or on the phone that would like to make public comment. I'm not seeing anyone in the room, so broadcast services, if you could see if we have anybody on the phone for public comment, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Brooks. The public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Well, we've got just a little bit of a delay, time delay for those watching, so it might take just a minute. So I want to just give just an opportunity to see if anyone needs to call in.
Thank you, Chair. Broadcast standing by.
All right, doesn't sound like we have anybody on the line for public comment, and it looks like we lost 7-1 in game one. Yikes is right. All right, so with that, we will adjourn for the night and head to floor.